Okay. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ask Bonbon Show. Real conversations about what matters most, where we bring you the people and the tools to create the life that you love. I am your host, Bonnie Bruder, and today I am so thrilled to be bringing you part 2 in a 5-part series called CREATE-U. Now, what is CREATE-U, you may be asking? Well, it is an online university that is going to teach you how to really design, declare, and then create the life that you desire. So today we're going to talk about a very important piece of that, and the topic today is goal setting. Recent research shows that only 5% of people write down their goals. Isn't that unbelievable? I have been somebody that has had goals for about the past 20 years, and I learned the technique of writing down your goals and the power that has from a very powerful mentor of mine, Tony Robbins. And so today I want to share with you not only that story and the power that goal setting can have in your life, but also I want to teach you a very powerful way to determine how to write down your goals and what it is that you want in life. So many years ago, I was about 23 years old, and I was going through a period of my life where things just weren't, going so hot. I don't know if any of you viewers have felt like that, or maybe you had a period of your life like that. I was fresh out of college. I was living with a couple of roommates, and I had a job where I was making $18,000 a year, or 19 if I hit my bonus. And the sad part of the whole story is I thought I was doing pretty well. I would just go to work, I would go home, live with my roommates, follow the rules that they had set, and go to happy hour with my friends, and I didn't really have much of a purpose or much of a vision. And then unfortunately, during that period of my life, my mom got very sick, and she was in the hospital. And I remember the first day that she went into the hospital and I got the call, and I remember thinking that that was the worst day of my life. When I went to bed that night and my head hit the pillow, I really was clear that that was the worst day I'd ever had. And then for 3 months, every single day, it got worse. And so every day I spent my days at the hospital. I watched her as she went from being this amazing person in spirit until she eventually passed on. And so this was obviously a very traumatic period in my life, and I had never gone through anything like this before. So fortunately, during that period, I had an incredible boyfriend, and he was very successful. He was very driven and just different than most people that were part of my sphere of influence. And so as he had watched what I had gone through, I remember he said to me, he said, B, which is what he called me, he said, you need some help. You need somebody to really show you how you can create the life that you want. You've been through this terrible experience, but you really need to now take a stand, and you need to move forward and, figure out what kind of life that you want. And so I didn't even understand at the time what that meant. I was in grief. I was just dealing with what I was dealing with. And again, thought that my $18,000 a year salary was, pretty good. I was fresh out of college. And so after a little negotiating and going back and forth, he, by duress, took me to a Tony Robbins seminar. And I have to be honest, I thought at that point it was a little culty in my mind. I thought, we're going to drink Kool-Aid. What's going on here? But boy, let me tell you, were my eyes opened and opened wide. So at the event, it was 4 powerful days, and the first day was focused mainly on mindset. And so for 8 hours, we were put in a room, we were given information that I had never been exposed to before. And then at the end of that evening, we walked across a hotbed of coals, 14 feet of coals that were 1,200 to 2,000 degrees. And so this was a pretty powerful experience, and it really was to serve as a metaphor for overcoming your fears and overcoming anything that gets in your way in life. And so by that point, now it's Saturday morning, my eyes are open, and I'm sitting up straight and I'm paying attention, and I'm thinking that there may in fact be something to this personal development and to, deciding what you want in your life and making it happen. And so thankfully for the next couple of days, I went through the seminar, I learned a lot of great information, and just taking a step back, I was not the type of person that had ever been exposed to this before. I don't know about you, the viewer, maybe you will have a positive mindset, or maybe this is also new for you, but for me, I was raised in a family that was really all about kind of Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will. Don't get your hopes up, you'll just be disappointed. And my parents didn't do this to not be nice, they just just did it because they thought that they were protecting us. They thought that these were good messages to teach us. So that's just kind of how I went through life, and it was working for me and so forth, until I went to this event and I realized that you don't have to have that mindset. You don't have to have those beliefs. In fact, if you believe anything in life and you're willing to work hard enough and sacrifice what it takes to get there, that you can achieve it. And so what happened on the Sunday was something that truly changed my life forever. And in the 2 decades since, it has allowed me to go on and do the work that I do here today and all of the coaching that I do, and really teach this to others so it can change their life. And that, again, is the power of goal setting. So going back to the Tony Robbins seminar, there we are. It's Sunday night. I've now had my world blown wide open. It's like the crack of human development. Here I'm getting exposed to all this information, but it's all new. It's all a little bit different. So of course I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm not quite sure it's going to work, or maybe it might work for people like others, like successful people, but I'm not quite sure that it's going to work for me. And so on Sunday, and mind you, I told you about the very successful boyfriend that had drugged me there, and he had to have the best of everything. So by this time, we're sitting in the front row, and I don't know if you've ever seen Tony Robbins, but he's a massive force. He's 6'7", gigantic. And so we're in the front row. He's just a few feet away from me, and he starts to talk about the power of goals and how most people in life don't even set goals. So the other thing that he says that's really important is that fuzzy targets are never hit. And so unless you have a defined goal, you have no shot of ever achieving what you want in your life. And so he goes on, and he starts talking about goal setting and explaining to us how powerful and important it is. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this all sounds good, but I don't have any goals. I'm not that type of person. I'm not a successful person. I'm just your average bear. I'm not someone that, operates this way. So he continues on, and then the terrifying part. It's time to write. It's writing exercise time. And so he instructs us to open our manuals and to take out a pen and to start writing our goals. So you can imagine, I am like a deer in the headlights. I'm sitting there in the front row. This massive man, who is a force to be reckoned with for sure, is just a few feet away from me. And he keeps saying, write down your goals. And he's looking right at me. And so in that moment, I think, I'm just going to do what anyone else in my shoes would do. I'm going to try to copy off the person next to me. So I look to the left and I try to copy off that person's goals because I need to come up with something and quick. And so that person is writing and no chance. That's not going to happen. So I do what anyone in my shoes would do, and I look to the right and I try to copy off my boyfriend's goals because he's just writing. I mean, he must have a wrist cramp by this point. He's writing all of his goals. No such luck. Not happening. And in that moment, I look up and I lock eyes with Tony Robbins, and he says, write down your goals. So I realize I better come up with something. So I just start to think about people that I've seen in my life that are probably goals people. And I thought about this lady at work who's always running around. She was the director, and so she was a very important role there. And she always has these I ran a 5K or I ran a 10K t-shirts. So I write that down, run a 5K. I didn't even really know what that was at the time. Vitamins. I had always heard that it was important to have good nutrition. So I wrote down take vitamins. Take a yoga class. I just started thinking of things that people that I knew that were successful would do, and things that may have been of interest to me. And so after a while, thankfully, Tony stopped staring and went on his way. And I just wrote down a couple of more things. I wrote, get a raise. Again, at that time, I didn't even care because I thought that I was doing well. But what happened is the exercise thankfully ended. And I put away that piece of paper, and the seminar continued and then wrapped up that night. And it wasn't like instantly all of those goals came true. In fact, I just went back to work, and some of the girls teased me a little bit, and they wanted to know what my weekend was like. And I found myself thinking, it actually was pretty amazing. I learned a few things that I had no idea about, and I'm just going to give it a try. And so slowly but surely, I ticked away at that goal list. And during this time, there was no Google. I didn't even know what half of my goals meant. So, for example, to run a 5K, I actually had to go to the running shoe store and look up on the old-fashioned bulletin board and find a race. And so I couldn't find a 5K, and I saw a half marathon. So I was like, well, I don't know what that is either, so I guess I'll just do that. So I signed up for that. And then slowly but surely, my cousin who I told about that goal, she wanted to do it with me. And then that spanned a 10-year career as a triathlon and marathon runner. I competed in races all over the world, including New Zealand Ironman, and that really became my passion. So that one goal that I set took me out of going to happy hours, doing the same thing that everybody else was doing in my life, and put me into a whole new environment. And again, that was just because I followed through on one particular goal. So going back to the goal sheet, I just started ticking off one by one. So I went to a yoga class, and I found one at the local YMCA. Again, had no idea what I was doing. I just wrote it down because I needed to come up with something. And I can still remember the night that I took my first yoga class. I was laying on the couch. I was in San Francisco, California, and it literally felt like my spine was like, those neon bubbles, if you're in a limo with the colored lights and things like that. That's what it felt like. It was the most amazing feeling. And so again, I was hooked. And I started doing yoga, and year after year got more and more into it, and eventually became a yoga instructor. I went and lived on an ashram in the Bahamas and studied with swamis and learned to teach yoga, and did that for years. And same thing with vitamins. I started taking vitamins because that was another goal on my list, and that made me feel so good. So I started to get more and more into nutrition. I ended up going to night school and becoming a holistic health practitioner, specializing in comparative nutrition, and then that's part of the work and the coaching that I do. Eventually, I opened a spa called Cleanse that I've now sold, but it was in Mill Valley, California, where we did 6-day juice and detox cleanses. So all of these things, all of these goals that in the moment were so small, I started to follow through on, and I started to bring them into my life, and it completely transformed every area of my life. As far as career, I still had that same stupid job, but within a couple of months I was promoted. So I went from making $18,000 to $33,000, which still wasn't a big jump, but mind you, this is back in the 90s. And then from there, the internet came on the scene, thankfully, and that sounded really interesting to me. So I jumped and I went to a company called City Search, and I was part of launching their first markets. When I came on board, we had 2 markets, and when I left, there were 79 that were open. And that was in the heyday and the thriving, internet boom. So every single thing that I had put on that list and that I took action on started to transform and to really change my life in ways that I had no idea would be possible when I wrote those down. So let me tell you, there is something that I believe is so powerful that you can do today in your life, and that is writing down your goals. So what I want you to do as a viewer is I want you to grab a notebook, grab a piece of paper. You don't have to do it right now because I don't want you to miss anything. But after this show, I want you to make sure that you grab your notebook and just start writing down, write for 5 minutes to start, and just write some of the goals that you think you would like to do. Some of the things that you've been interested in, some of the things that you perhaps want to explore. And I'm telling you, if you make an attempt to follow through on those, just like I've experienced, and I've seen hundreds and now thousands of people around the world experience, it truly can transform the way that you do life. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of specific tips that you can use in goal setting, because some people may feel the way that I felt sitting there staring at Tony Robbins just in terror because I literally had never even thought of the concept of having a goal. And so the first thing that you can do if goal setting is new to you, or even if it's not and you're an expert, is really define all of the things that you know you don't want in your life. And this may sound a little counterintuitive because, of course, we know thoughts are things and you get what you focus on, but it's an important thing to do and to note because a lot of times we figure out what we do want by knowing what we don't want. It's very interesting. In the 2 decades since I had this experience, I've been a life coach and an executive coach, and I've toured all over the world. I've coached over 7,000 people. And the majority of people, when they sit down and I ask them what they want, they look at me like I'm a lunatic. Like I'm crazy, like I just asked them, their deepest, darkest secret. And for most people, I just have. And the reason is that most people don't even stop to ask themselves what it is that they want in life and what their desires are. And so it's funny, people always ask me, what's the common thread? I've worked with billionaires, I've worked with CEOs of companies, I've worked with homeless people that literally collected cans to purchase a ticket in order to get into an event and then transform their life. And if I did have to pick a common thread, I would say that that's it. Is that people a lot of times, in many circumstances, just don't define what it is they want in their life. And so again, taking a step back, a powerful way that you can do this is just to write down everything you don't want. Look at your life from, very early on back into childhood, all the way up through your high school years and college, if you went to college, and career and so forth, whatever stage you are in life, and just write down all the things that you no longer want to tolerate. These can be big things. These can be things like no more month at the end of your money when you can't pay your rent. It can be little things like you don't want, to be out of milk when you're making your coffee in the morning, but every single thing that you don't want, write that down, no matter how big or small. And then what I want you to do is, once you have this list, I want you to just do a ceremony, do something to get rid of it. If you have a place where you can safely burn it, I'm a big fan of that. But of course, don't do this inside your home. Make sure you have a fire pit or a barbecue or something that would support that. If you can't do that, rip it up, throw it up in the air. I love doing don't want confetti. You write it, you tear it up, and you throw it up in the air. And then you're doing something that's signifying to the universe that this is no longer tolerated. This is no longer a part of your life. And then once you've done that, start to make the list of what you do want. Again, write everything. It doesn't matter how big or small. So if there's something that, is in your day that would make it better, maybe you don't want any traffic, or maybe you want a traffic-free experience on your way to work. Maybe you take the subway and you would like to have, your favorite snacks at the Starbucks. Whatever it is to you, no matter how big or how small, write down every single thing that would make your life easier. And what I really encourage people to do is act as if you have a magic wand. Do this from the perspective of anything is possible. I work with a lot of very busy people. Either they're a high-powered executive, or maybe they're a mom that has many roles. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a worker, you're a friend, you're a sister, all of these different roles. And so sometimes life can get so overwhelming and it can be just all over the place. But when you start to write down all of the little things and all of the big things that you want, you start to bring clarity into your life. And so once you have this list, we're going to also celebrate it. So we don't want to rip this one up. This is going to become a very important one. And a couple of the future segments, I'm going to teach you what you're going to do with this list to manifest those things into your life and to create a visual representation of all of your goals and all of your dreams. And then we're going to talk about the Remember Forward technique, which is a very powerful tool that can really help you draw on those goals quickly. But write down your list, and then what we want to do with this list is we want to put it in a place where you can see it every single day. So I like to encourage people to put it under your pillow, maybe you put it on your refrigerator, on your bathroom mirror, but somewhere where you can see these goals and you can connect with them. So each and every day you can be sending out those positive vibes and that positive information about drawing what it is you want into your life. And so read these goals every single day. And then the second little sneaky trick, and this is an advanced tip because I wasn't going to cover this until a future segment, but I'll just give you a little teaser, is what you want to do is you want to imagine how it's going to feel when you already have that goal. So if your goal is to be a parent, if your goal is to live in a new home or have a new car, or maybe have a new job, or maybe you just want this beautiful bracelet that you saw at the store, or maybe you just want happiness all day long, whatever it is, just spend some time every day thinking about how it's going to feel once you have that goal and once it's realized in your life. So that is our segment on goal setting. Again, just to recap where we've been today, I talked to you about the power of setting goals. I talked to you about how only 5% of people set goals in their life. Isn't that unbelievable? I don't even want to tell you how many people don't even follow through of that 5%, but 5% of people. So if you do the homework that we talked about in this show today, you are going to be cutting edge. You're going to be in the upper echelon. And then what I want you to do is I want you to write your list of what you no longer want in your life. So everything that you're no longer willing to tolerate. Then you're going to tear that up, burn it, whatever you can safely do to get rid of it and to make a declaration that that's no longer a part of your life. From there, what you're going to do is you're going to write and write and write all the things that you do want. Doesn't matter how big, how small, how magnificent, the bigger the better. And then you're going to put that list somewhere where you can see it, and you're going to acknowledge it every day by reading it and by also imagining how it's going to feel once you have those things in your life. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching this segment of Create University and also the Ask Bonbon Show. And we look forward to seeing you on the next segment. Bye for now.